I always say that it is very easy to get under Donald Trump's skin, to bother and aggravate him, but to live rent-free in his head, that takes a little bit of a step up. And that is something that Pete Buttigieg has clearly accomplished, because after some brutal call-outs of Donald Trump, we are now seeing our dictator Donnie, our petulant child president, attack Pete Buttigieg for one of the strangest reasons possible, considering what's happening with his administration right now. But we are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, of course, before we get into Donald Trump's very weird attack on Pete Buttigieg, I want to start with the call out from Pete that I think led him to get so upset.
Well, we're officially 100 days into the Trump presidency, and President Trump is coming here to Michigan to mark the occasion. When he arrives, he will be the most unpopular president at the 100-day mark in modern history. And I think we all know why. He came to power pointing to a number of problems, many of them very real in this country, and promised that he was going to quickly and easily solve them. And instead, those problems have gotten worse on his watch. Take the economy. Any way you measure the economy, whether it's by prices or by jobs or by consumer confidence or his favorite, the stock market, all of those measures are worse than they were 100 days ago. Same thing with government efficiency. And a lot of us agree across party lines that the government needs to be shaken up to become more efficient, to serve people better, but that's not what we're seeing. Whether you look at VA service or wait times to get help at Social Security or so many other measures of whether the government's doing a good job, it's gotten worse. And of course, we have seen basic American constitutional rights and freedoms trampled on again and again. The main thing I wanted to mention is that this unpopularity, this turning that's happening among the American people, isn't just the result of his failures. It's in many ways the result of your successes, from people taking to the streets to voices and institutions in civil society standing up for American freedom. Even Americans showing up at town halls, getting Republican members of Congress who have not been the best at listening these last few months or years, getting them to stop and pay attention. All of that is clearly having a major effect. So please keep it up. And at the same time, we recognize that no matter how important good opposition is, there's more to this moment than just opposition. We need to be lifting up and seeking out the voices that are helping make sense of this moment and pointing toward a better future. It is not an easy time for our country. It's not easy to be an American right now. But here at the 100-day mark, with all of the problems our country is facing, I'm also seeing a lot of evidence that so many Americans are ready to meet this moment. This is certainly a test of our country. I believe that we will meet that test and even make ourselves proud of what we did to guide America out of this moment into something much, much better.
As he has always been, and especially as of lately, Pete Buttigieg is right on the money. Donald Trump's first 100 days have been an absolute disaster, the worst we have ever seen, and there is nothing that he can say to try to convince you otherwise, and he's not really actually trying. Donald Trump isn't really putting forth lies. He isn't trying to cover for himself. He's just kind of embracing it because it doesn't seem like he really cares at this point, and that's part of his administration. It's not taking accountability. It's not caring when they break the law, because Donald Trump is trying to put as much power in his hands as possible, which is also what Pete had to say right here.
The whole point of this country is that no one person should have too much power. Like, to me, that's the whole point of a country. The king was somebody who had too much power.
Yep.
And we said, we're not going to do it that way. There were ferocious debates at the time of the founding over whether to even create a presidency. Because Jefferson was worried that if we had a president, it would turn into a king.
Yeah.
And they kind of hit a compromise where we created the president, but we took all these measures in the Constitution to make sure that that presidency didn't become too powerful. And this is like a part of the texture of our country.
Kind of crazy to think, and in the context of that podcast, the Flagrant podcast, which is supposed to be the manosphere, the macho, manly guys, that they would be happy, and any Republican who claims to be just, the strong, manly guy, that they'd be happy with someone who wants to be a dictator, that they just want to fall in line, right? That they just want to serve a king. They want to serve their supreme leader. It's just weird. And clearly all of this has gotten under Donald Trump's skin, this call out from Pete Buttigieg, because he had this to say about his tenure as transportation secretary of all things right here.
We have very obsolete equipment for air traffic controllers. The equipment, the towers have horrible equipment. It's been renovated for years. The money they spent over the last 4 years, this Buttigieg did a horrible job. They wasted billions and billions of dollars hooking up wire equipment to non-wire equipment to satellite equipment, and a third-grade student would know it doesn't work. You can't work. And they wasted tens of billions of dollars. But we want to put a brand new air traffic control system in, and you might want to describe that, please.
While Pete Buttigieg was transportation secretary, he made it easier for people to get refunds on canceled flights. He made sure that we didn't have planes falling out of the sky. He helped oversee one of the biggest investments in infrastructure in American history. What are you doing, Donald? Like, your administration started off with plane crash after plane crash after plane crash, and you're saying Pete Buttigieg did a bad job? You have a reality TV host or star or whatever Sean Duffy is with his inexperience as your Secretary of Transportation. Get out of here. This is absolute insanity and is exactly what the administration is all about: deflecting and attacking, and of course, getting upset when people call you out. And speaking of folks, as we did in the beginning of this video, who live in Donald Trump's head rent-free, Jasmine Crockett's also one of those people. She was calling Trump out right here.
When we look at some of the legislation that was thousands of pages long, such as the CHIPS and Science Act, states like Ohio were able to get a chips manufacturing facility that Samsung was bringing in, which meant jobs, which meant manufacturing, and so many other states were able to benefit. But did we communicate it?
Yeah.
Not really. Did people really understand what was happening? Not per se, right? And so, you know, everybody has different solutions. So some people want to dig in and say, let's get to the policy, right? But what good is policy if the people don't understand or know that that is what you are going to enact? Or when it comes down to it, we are such a big tent party that we have certain people that say, well, never mind, I'm not going to push hard for those reforms, say by the time we get to the Senate and we have to deal with the filibuster.
Kamala Harris spoke out. She's been laying pretty low, but she spoke out about some of this tension within the Democratic Party of what you do, and named some names, including yours. Let's take a look.
And I will tell you, the courage of all these Americans inspires me to lift up voices and advance freedom and justice, including congressional leaders like Cory Booker, Chris Van Hollen, Chris Murphy, Jasmine Crockett, all who, in different ways, have been speaking with moral clarity about this moment.
One difference seems to be whether we're after an election where Democrats said democracy itself is on the line and we're facing an autocrat, then do you just go back to saying, well, never mind, we wrote a letter, we'll hold a hearing and be done with it. Then Holland, of course, traveled on that mission. Booker, we saw. People have said that you seem to be taking it up a notch.
Yeah.
Are you guys still, though, in a minority within your party?
I mean, I would say so. I do believe that. I think that everyone is trying to be very responsive to their district, and I can't speak for any other district. I can tell you that my district wants me to speak out and be loud and be proud at all times. But you know what? We've got lots of great opportunities, and so I'm looking forward to some of the things that we're going to do on oversight as we continue to push back against this administration. Now that we know that they are doing things such as, you know, snatching people off the streets and throwing them down in what I would consider to be concentration camps or prisons. And these are people that haven't been convicted of anything. And it's wrong. Listen, we have oversight over them. If we are in a contract with El Salvador, then it is us that have to decide as to whether or not they are violating human rights. And so we have to be given an opportunity to inspect. So even if James Comer says, no, Democrats, you can't go down there, well, we are elected members of the Oversight Committee, so we should be requiring that they turn over reports to us. Same thing with the FDA, is they're going out and they're firing people, and we don't know what its impact is going to be as it relates to our food supply, and they don't want to tell us about it, whether or not our food is going to be safe. Then guess what? We need to make sure that we require that they turn those documents over to us. And if they don't, guess what? We need to show up at their doors, and we need to conduct a field hearing right there at FDA. Same thing as it relates to the planes that are falling out of the sky.
Right.
We we need some real transparency and we need some honesty, and we need to make sure that the American people are just as enraged as we all should be.
Right.
Because this administration is truly trying to kill us, it feels like.
All right, we got you on that. There's also the thing in life and politics where sometimes things just work until they don't.
Yeah.
And so Donald Trump has made all kinds of claims, and he improved his vote total in November. So you have to look at how that worked. And yet, in this new town hall he did with Bill O'Reilly, you saw some of the bravado sort of fail in person. That's why town halls, whatever you think of them, like, you still have people there.
Yes.
They might be partisan, but you still get some reactions. Take a look at this moment.
Lee says, what's the biggest mistake you think you've made in the first 100 days?
That's the toughest question I can have because I don't really believe I've made
You
mistakes.
made any mistakes?
We're in a transition period. We're in a transition period.
I think Lee is reassured.
There was sort of an audible laughter, and maybe that's how you go with your own side, but it was still not acceptable. It was not on the level, even in that audience, that he doesn't see that he's made mistakes. The implication being those people think he has made mistakes.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this. You know, people tried to talk about the mental acuity of Joe Biden. And as someone who was able to interact with him, I never questioned his mental acuity. But come on now. Come on, like you are crashing the economy. We are talking about record crashing of the stock market. We are talking about, you just mentioned it, the amount of people that he has fired. We are talking about people complaining and saying there is nothing at the ports.
Right.
We are talking about CEOs coming in and sitting down with you and saying that these shelves are going to be as bare as they were during the pandemic. Like, no, everything is a problem, not to mention Signalgate. And now you've got one of your, appointees stepping down because somebody was going to have to take the blame.
Right.
Now, I think it's the guy that needs, it's the guy that says he wants to have his makeup room that needs to go somewhere, because at least Mike Walls has some kind of experience within government. Unlike Pete Hegseth, but honestly, get rid of the entire cabinet. We need to start over because everything is messed up from their HHS secretary. I know you're probably trying to move on to something else, but I'm just saying, I could go on for days.
We have to fit in a break, but start over. 100 days, start over. We got that message, Congresswoman.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. We'll be right back.
I told you we were going to make it a tradition. Every time that Jasmine Crockett is speaking, I want to clap. This is just someone who gets me so excited, and she's spot on. And I agree with really just the whole ethos and philosophy of Jasmine Crockett's approach to media, which is be there all the time and constantly be calling out everything. There are too many Democrats who I think are afraid to speak in the way and on the topics that Jasmine Crockett will, and we have to stop that. We have to be fighting all the time. We have to be calling out Donald Trump. We're certainly doing so on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.